Lead gen is what? Lead gen is rejection. Oh man, I mean, we're talking about it again, talking about rejection, but that's a fact. There's no getting around that. Lead generation requires actions that you're going to take that are going to result in you feeling rejected. That's the reality. And we're going to talk about dealing with that, and we're going to talk about the power of rejection. One negative review is all it takes. All Dustin did was basically tell us to make 10 calls a day. Lame. Signed anonymous. I think the anonymous part's kind of lame, but hey, that's cool, I get it. This was from a presentation I gave in Alberta about 5 or 6 years ago. And I thought it was a pretty good presentation. I worked pretty hard putting the whole thing together, and this was the feedback. When you ask for feedback, you got to look at the feedback, I guess. So anyway, I appreciate that, you know. But this stuck with me for 5 or 6 years. And then recently, a good 5 years later, all Dustin did was basically tell us to make 10 calls a day. This really hit home. This is a gentleman on one of our open Monday mastermind calls. You know who you are, and I thank you for this. Saying almost the exact same thing, but for him, it was like the flip side experience. He's like, I realized, yeah, I'm actually not reaching out into my database. I should be. I'm going to make those calls. And it completely changed his business. And as I say, it's interesting because that testimonial is really what it was in front of an audience. And that absolutely felt great. But do I still have, you know, I can backtrack. Do I still have this other slide in there? I do. Why? Why do I have that in there? I'm never going to have that slide in another presentation. I'm never going to think about it again. I'm not. I'm going to focus on this one. And that is a really difficult thing for us to do as humans because we do get locked in to the one person that tells us we did it wrong, and we tend to ignore the 99 people that tell us we did it right. And even if the ratio is 1 to 1, why do we default to the one telling us we did it wrong? Why don't we skew to the one who complimented us? But we tend not to do that. Oh, you look lovely today. Nice shoes. And then you go home and you burn your shoes. Like, why don't we stick with the person who said we look lovely today? Seriously. So I'm going to work harder at that myself, for sure. And I think we all should. Because, yes, rejection sucks a lot, and yet we need to embrace it, right? We kind of need to embrace the suck. That's the reality. It's you know, it's a reality. It's a reality of life because what you need in order to start brokering, more than anything, you need one thing. If you want to start in this business, you need a client. You need a client. You can have all the knowledge you want. You can have all the systems set up. You can have all the things ready to go. But if you don't have a client, you've got nothing. So you have to actually start reaching out there and asking people, would you like to go to prom with me? And you're going to get told no. And that's going to suck. But eventually somebody's going to say yes. Eventually somebody's going to say yes, and then away you go. And what we currently have a lot of, if you don't have any clients, in particular, I referenced the individual who messaged me, 7 months in the business, hasn't closed a single file. I guarantee what that individual has a lot of, a stack of, 3 bags full of, buckets full of excuses. And I put it in tiny little font because we're not going to focus on those. But I guarantee there's a lot of those there. You know, that individual referenced friends and family, not wanting to go after friends and family. Well, our friends and family, as I say, I really think they should be our referral partners. We don't need them to be our clients. And I think being clear with our friends and family that, hey, I understand the mortgage process, the finance process can be deeply personal. It can go very, very deep into a lot of personal things. And I understand that you may not be entirely comfortable sharing, you know, your net worth, income, credit report, all of that with me. I respect that, but I would love it if you could refer me to the team, to the office, to the XYZ circle, whatever it is. Like, there's nothing wrong in asking your friends and family to support you, right? That, to me, that just makes a ton of sense. Friends and family can certainly help us gain clients. And the clients, well, who do they know? The clients, they know more clients. And that's the other thing. The best way you get a referral from an existing client it isn't to ask for one in a certain way or whatever. It's to actually do an incredible job where you take such good care of them, where you hold every single door for them, where you roll the red carpet out everywhere you can, that they want to tell everyone they know. They're just blown away by that. And when it comes to referral partners, if you don't know any referral partners, become one, right? Become one. The best way to receive referrals is to give referrals. Who do you have in your life that you can become a center of influence for? You got a buddy that hangs Christmas lights at Christmas time? Pump that person's tires up. You're building your database. You're building your email list. Push other people's services out there. Why not? Now, be careful in doing that. Be very, very careful who you're referring, because if they're less than professional, it's going to reflect on you. It's going to reflect on you big time. So they better be top level at what they do. They have to be. Just like you've got to be top level at what you do. But becoming a referral source, becoming a center of influence is a great way. Your other options basically fall into this category. You can buy leads, you can call realtors, you can call every human you know, you can buy Google AdWords, you can pay for social media campaigns. So what do we see there? What's on that list? Buy, call, rent, buy, call, buy, pay, pay, pay. It's either time invested in calling, or it's money investing in something you hope is going to actually work for you. Which do you have more of? Have you got more time or more money? Odds are, if you're brand new and you're starting out, you don't have a lot of money. You don't. That's why I created this day. That's why I tried to make this day as absolute economically as possible. You know, I kind of tried to make it a lost leader. I just wanted to try and get rookies in here to feed them full of this information. You don't have a lot of money. You don't have enough to sign up for a $3,000 a month coaching program, nor should you. That's not going to help you. And you don't necessarily have enough money to buy leads, but you've got time. So use that time. That's the resource you've got. Maximize it. Invest that time in calling, as I say, every human you know, and calling realtors, because yes, the market's soft. Oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. You know, the actual stats out there suggest that 2023 market will be busier in purchases and sales than 2019. So is 2019 a great year to become a broker? Yep. Is 2023 a great year to start out being a broker? Yep. People are going to buy. People are going to buy. It's going to happen. And know thyself, right? What's your strength? What's your budget? What matters? We'll expand on some of this as well. And what are the top producers in your market doing? And one of the things we actually see, and I didn't put any slides together on this, but just quickly, one of the things we see is we see a lot of social media, we see a lot of videos, we see a lot of likes and views and everything else. And if you talk to some of those people who are getting, you know, the 15,000, 20, 25,000 views on a video about whatever it might be related to mortgages, if you actually ask them how many applications that's turning into, how many funded files that's turning into, in many, many cases, the answer is 0, right? It's keeping them top of mind with existing clients. People are sharing it. Referral partners are sharing it. It's good to do. But again, it's not the secret to building a successful business. It is a part of maintaining and keeping the wheels spinning on a successful business, but it's not going to help you get off the ground, although those are good skills to have. I mean, the number one reason I committed to doing the podcast that I started doing back in March of 2020 was to improve my skills. I really just wanted to get better at talking to a lens and emoting to a camera. And I realized, and it's so interesting how many times I will rewatch something, which isn't very often, but how many times that I do rewatch it and I realize I really got to go crazy when I'm standing here just staring at the camera, because on the other end, it just kind of comes through like I'm really going crazy on the camera. Like you have to put so much more movement and emotion and everything else, emotion, like that's my strong suit, into a video. So practice, practice, practice. And I know not a lot of people love this method of approach. I don't love it, but it's the way I've done it, and it's worked for me. I almost never record a clip and post it. Virtually never. I go live. I trip over my tongue, I mess up my words, I lose my train of thought sometimes, but I go live 199 out of 200 times. 999 out of 1,000 videos that are out there, they were live. I just shot them walking down the street, walking through the airport, standing in my office, whatever. That's how they got put together. Because for me, like a lot of you as well, if I record it and I rewatch it, I don't like it. So then I re-record it and I rewatch it and I don't like it. And next thing you know, you've gone down this rabbit hole and you got 48 video clips that you've created of the same 15-second clip, and none of them are the right one. Although, I don't know, that third one wasn't bad, or was it the 11th one? And an hour of your life has gone by when you could have just gone live, knocked it out in 60 seconds, and it's over, and you got that hour of your life back. So, you know, again, there's a little sidetrack on video production. How are you living life day to day, right? This was actually the slide where I was going to talk about Rob, which I spoke about earlier. Are you being kind, compassionate, charitable, polite, forgiving, helpful, patient, tolerant? This is lead generation. It just is, right? Marketing is what people are saying about you. What are they saying about you? Are they saying that you're a professional? That's helpful. That's good. Are they saying you're kind, you're charitable, you're polite? That's very, very helpful. So, you know, where are you at? And it goes to the whole concept of walking through life with RBF, which I sometimes come down with a really bad case of, and it can last for days. And it's not a good way to be, right? I have to remind myself to like, oh yeah, it's the muscles over here to, yeah, to knock in, that's not even a good smile, is it? But to try and knock into a smile, you know, it's not natural for me. I don't just naturally walk around smiley and happy. I'm inside my head thinking. But what are you like when you're out there in the world, and in particular when you're at events? Who are you? How are you interacting with people? Are you interacting with people? Because every single interaction is an interview. It's an interview, right? When we walked into Chipotle, to Body Energy Club, to the hotel yesterday, Rob was basically being interviewed by those people, even though no one really thinks of it that way. But ultimately, they're evaluating, who is this guy? He's a nice guy. I like this guy. And then if they find out what he does and they need the services of what he does, next thing you know, he's getting the job. He's getting the job because he's interviewed for the role and successfully won it. Every interaction we have is an interview. So are you getting the job, right? That's the reality. And every single conversation is about real estate or about finance. This is a truth that top producers truly understand. My personal realtor, Colin, I sent him a text message, and I said, I still recall the conversation years ago. And the conversation was one that he and I had where he was talking about dealing with a rookie realtor in his office. And they said, I just don't understand, man. Like, how do you bring every conversation around to real estate? And I cut him off because that's what I'm good at doing. And, but I didn't really cut him off. We both said at the same time, how is every conversation not about real estate, right? Like it always is. It always goes there. And this was his response. And I think his response is quality, right? The conversation will always lead there. He just lets the client lead it there first. He calls for a genuine reason, right? He calls clients. He works his database. He calls me. And he calls for a genuine reason, asking how they're doing. And he comes across very caring and compassionate. He's a great guy. Or he's, wishing a happy birthday. There it is. Or he's congratulating them on a new baby or whatever it is, whatever's happening in their life. Rather than clicking like, rather than typing a comment, he's picking up the phone. Hey, I see new kid, new car, new spouse, whatever, congratulations. And in the end, as he says, the conversation always comes around to real estate, and it does. And here's the thing, if you agree with everything I just said, if you get that, you're nodding your head, you're like, yeah, no, totally, you're on track for massive success. You will have a successful career because you get it. You get it. Like, you just naturally bring the conversation around to that. You've learned to ask the questions of the client that they then they ask back, and it leads down the path, right? You lead them down the path. And so the action to take is really, who are my first 10, who are my next 100 clients that are going into my database? Who am I going to be calling? And when I say if it isn't written down, it doesn't happen, I mean, I really mean this. And this is why I have this document that we're also sharing with you. It's a fillable PDF, but again, it's one that's great to print 5 copies off on Monday morning, or better yet, on Friday night. Print 5 copies off Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and write down the 10 names in there that you're going to call on Monday. And if you do that the night before, you write down those names, now you've got the whole evening that those names are in your brain because you actually wrote them down. You don't need to write down their phone number, you don't need to write anything down because you've got all their data saved in your phone. Hey Siri, call Peter. Boom, Siri's calling Peter, it's done. And you will physically take a pen and cross those names out as you go. And there's a thing in our brains, it's called the Kierkegaard effect, where when we begin something, we have a very difficult time stopping doing that thing that we've begun doing. We have a difficult time abandoning a half-completed task. Most of us really do, especially when it's something like a list and you're physically crossing the things off the list. So if you put those on there, you will make those calls. If you print this sheet, if you write down those names, and you have that sheet on your desk tomorrow morning with 10 names on it, you will make those calls. You absolutely will. And again, another worksheet we're going to share with you. Super basic, right? Super basic, but my referral worksheet. And again, you can see we're tracking very basic information. One of the key points there, you can see it over to the far right, is the green, yellow, and red boxes. That's where you're just taking the person's temperature. You know, are they cool? Is everything a go? Are they a green light? Everything is good in their life? Right on. Make a note of that. Are they a yellow? Did something sound not quite right? Did it sound like there's some stressors in their life? You're going to want to call them back a little sooner, potentially. Or are they in a red? And if they're a red, like if they're stressing, if they've got problems, is there anything you can do? Is there anyone you can introduce them to help them with that challenge that they're dealing with? How can you help them with that challenge? If you work this sheet, this basic fundamental sheet like that, you make those 10 calls a day, well, we know how that story is going to end.